The warning lights flashed red across the bridge of the orbital defense station New Sol. Admiral Jiwan stood perfectly still, watching the massive shapes appear on the main screen. The alien ships were bigger than anything humanity had ever built. Much bigger. "How many?" she asked quietly. 200 confirmed contacts, reported Captain Hyun from his position at the tactical console. "More appearing every minute. They're coming out of some kind of jump drive system we've never seen before." Dr. Mina looked up from her science station, her face pale. "Admiral, the energy readings are incredible. Each of their large ships has more power than our entire orbital defense grid." Jiwan nodded slowly. She had expected this day would come eventually. Humanity had been reaching for the stars for over a century. It was only natural that something would reach back. "Send the alert to Earth Command," she ordered. "Full military activation, and get me President Kang on a secure channel." The alien fleet settled into formation just outside Earth's moon orbit. They made no aggressive moves, but their presence was clear enough. Hundreds of ships, some the size of cities, hanging in space like dark mountains. 3 hours passed in tense silence. Then the communication came. The voice spoke perfect English, though it had a strange echo to it. "Primitive species of the third planet. I am Commander Thexis of the Corvan Empire. You will prepare for Imperial inspection and resource evaluation." Admiral Jiwan exchanged glances with her bridge crew. She activated the communication system. "This is Admiral Jiwan of the United Earth Defense Force. You have entered our solar system without permission. State your intentions." A pause. Then something that might have been laughter. "Intentions? We do not explain our intentions to lesser species. You will comply with Imperial directives or face the consequences." Captain Hyun's jaw tightened. He had fought in 3 different wars on Earth. But this was different. This was humanity's first test against something from beyond their world. "Admiral," Dr. Mina whispered, "I'm picking up scanning beams. They're mapping our entire defense network, our ships, our stations, everything. On Earth below, the emergency sessions had already begun. President Kang sat in the crisis room deep beneath the Capitol, surrounded by generals, scientists, and diplomats. The news was not good. General Day spread the tactical assessment across the holographic display. Their smallest ships are larger than our biggest cruisers. Energy output suggests weapons that could level entire cities with single shots. We count over 300 vessels now, with more arriving." "What about their technology?" President Kang asked. Dr. Junho, head of the Quantum Research Division, shook his head. "Far beyond ours. Their faster-than-light travel system alone represents physics we barely understand. But," he paused, studying the data, "there might be patterns we can analyze, weaknesses we can find." Ambassador Sola leaned forward. "Have they made any specific demands yet?" As if summoned by her question, the communication systems activated. Commander Thexis's voice filled the room. "Leaders of Earth, you have 48 hours to prepare for Imperial assessment. Resistance will be met with appropriate force." The transmission ended, leaving silence in the crisis room. Back on New Sol Station, the bridge crew watched as the alien fleet adjusted its position. The largest ship, easily 50 kilometers long, moved to the center of the formation. "They're not even trying to hide their strength," Captain Hyun observed. "This is meant to intimidate us." Admiral Jiwan studied the formation. In her years of military service, she had learned to read the intentions behind deployments. This was not a battle formation, it was a demonstration. The aliens expected quick surrender. "Dr. Mina, what can you tell me about their communication systems?" "They're using quantum-encrypted channels, but they're also broadcasting on basic frequencies. Almost like they want us to hear everything. I'm detecting internal communications between their ships. They're speaking about us. Can you translate?" "Working on it." Mina's fingers flew across her console. "The translation matrix is basic, but—" "Admiral, you should hear this." The alien voices came through the speakers, now translated into English. "The humans show typical inferior species responses. Fear, confusion, primitive defensive posturing." Another voice responded. "The orbital installations are laughably weak. Ground invasion will require minimal forces." A third voice, deeper than the others. "Commander Thexis reports the species may attempt negotiation. Standard protocol, Demonstrate superior firepower, then accept surrender. Admiral Jiwan felt something cold settle in her stomach. These beings spoke about humanity like humans might discuss insects. Troublesome insects that needed to be controlled. On Earth, Marine Sergeant Wu was briefing his squad in the mountain training facility. News of the alien arrival had reached every military unit on the planet. His soldiers, men and women who had trained for every kind of war, now faced something beyond their preparation. "Listen up," Wu said to his Marines. "We don't know what's coming. Could be invasion, could be negotiation, but I want everyone ready for the worst case." Private Bach raised his hand. "Sergeant, the news says their ships are massive. How do we fight something like that?" Wu looked at each of his soldiers. These were good people, brave people. They deserved honest answers. "We fight like humans always fight. Smart, dirty, and with everything we've got. Big ships have big weaknesses. We just have to find them." The hours passed slowly. Across Earth, similar conversations were happening in military bases, government buildings, and civilian homes. Humanity was preparing, though for what, nobody was sure. Teacher Yoon was explaining the situation to her students when the second alien transmission arrived. This time, it came on every communication frequency on Earth. Every television, radio, computer, and phone received the message simultaneously. "People of Earth. I am Overlord Vexthar of the Corvan Empire. Your world has been selected for integration into our imperial domain. You possess resources we require. You will surrender these resources and accept imperial authority. Resistance will result in the destruction of your species." The message was accompanied by images, worlds that had resisted, burning cities, populations reduced to slavery, the visual evidence of what happened to species that said no. Factory worker Tay was watching the broadcast with his co-workers when the images appeared. Around him, people gasped, and some began crying. But Tay felt something different. Anger. Pure, simple anger. "They think we'll just give up," he said to the room. "They think we're scared." His supervisor, an older woman named Hana, nodded slowly. "Maybe they don't know humans very well." Back on New Sol Station, Admiral Jiwan received a direct communication from Earth Command. President Kang's face appeared on her screen, and she could see the weight of decision in his eyes. "Admiral, we've reviewed all options. The military assessment is clear. We cannot win a conventional war against this fleet, but surrender is not acceptable to the people of Earth." "What are your orders, Mr. President?" "Prepare for whatever comes next. If they want our resources, they're going to pay a price for them. A price they won't expect." As Admiral Jiwan acknowledged the orders, she looked out at the alien fleet. The beings out there had conquered hundreds of worlds. They had faced countless species. But they had never faced humanity. They were about to learn something important about humans. When cornered, humans did not become weaker. They became dangerous. The countdown to humanity's answer had begun. The Corvan transmission began at exactly noon, Earth time. Every screen on the planet showed the same image. A massive alien in elaborate armor standing before what looked like a throne made of dark metal. This was Overlord Vexthar, ruler of the Corvan Empire. "Humans of Earth," the creature began, its voice carrying across every communication device on the planet. "Your time for consideration has ended. You will now hear the terms of your integration into our empire." President Kang sat in the emergency council chamber, surrounded by Earth's leaders. They all watched in silence as the alien overlord continued. "First, you will surrender 60% of all rare earth metals. These materials are required for imperial construction projects. Your primitive mining operations will be expanded under Corvan supervision." General Day made notes on his tablet, calculating what that would mean for Earth's technology. 60% of rare metals would cripple their electronics industry, their space program, everything that made modern life possible. Second, 40% of your population will be relocated to imperial work colonies. These humans will provide labor for mining operations on 17 different worlds. Families may request to remain together, though this cannot be guaranteed. In homes across Earth, people listened in horror. 40% meant over 3 billion. People. Parents held their children closer, wondering which of them would be taken. Third, All military forces will be disbanded. Your weapons will be collected and destroyed. Imperial peacekeepers will maintain order and ensure compliance with all directives. Admiral Jiwan clenched her fists as she watched from New Seoul Station. Disband the military. Surrender their ability to defend themselves. The aliens wanted to make humanity completely helpless. You have 24 hours to begin compliance, Overlord Vexthar concluded. Failure to meet these terms will result in orbital bombardment of your major population centers. We have pacified 847 worlds using these methods. Earth will be the I-848th. The transmission ended, leaving Earth in stunned silence. Ambassador Sola immediately tried to open communication channels with the alien fleet. Commander Thexis, this is Ambassador Sola of the United Earth Government. We request immediate negotiations. These terms are unacceptable. The response came within minutes. There are no negotiations, compliance or destruction. These are your only options. But surely we can discuss modifications to the terms. Perhaps a gradual transition that would. Humans do not dictate terms to the Corvan Empire. You have 23 hours and 37 minutes remaining. The communication cut off. Ambassador Sola stared at her console, then slowly removed her diplomatic headset. In 30 years of international relations, she had never encountered such absolute refusal to negotiate. In the mountain training facility, Sergeant Wu gathered his Marines. The official orders had not come yet, but every soldier on Earth knew what was coming. Listen carefully, he told his squad. In a few hours, we're going to get orders to surrender our weapons and disband. Anyone who wants to follow those orders can leave now. No shame in it. He looked around the room. Nobody moved. Good. Because I didn't spend 15 years in the Marines to hand my rifle to some alien who thinks humans are slaves. He opened a weapons crate. We're going to prepare for war. A war nobody thinks we can win. Private Bach stepped forward. Sergeant, what can we do against ships that big? Wu smiled grimly. Kid, size isn't everything. Those ships are full of aliens who think they've already won. That makes them careless, and careless enemies make mistakes. Across Earth, similar conversations were happening. Teacher Yoon was organizing her school's emergency procedures when she got a call from her brother Tae at the factory. Yoon, we're not surrendering, he told her. The workers voted. We're converting the production lines. Converting them to what? Whatever we need to fight back. Weapons, ammunition, equipment. The government's going to need supplies. Yoon looked around her classroom, thinking of her students. What about the children? 40% of the population. That's why we fight. So they don't take our kids. At the Quantum Research Division, Dr. Junho was working frantically with his team. They had intercepted and recorded every alien transmission, every energy signature from the fleet. The weapons demonstration is scheduled for 1800 hours, he told Dr. Mina over the secure communication link. They're going to destroy something to show us their power. What target? Unknown. But we'll be monitoring everything, every energy pattern, every frequency, every pulse. If there's a weakness in their technology, that demonstration will show it to us. The target turned out to be the abandoned mining station Europa 7. The Corvans announced their demonstration 1 hour in advance, giving Earth's satellites and monitoring stations time to record everything. The alien ship that performed. The demonstration was medium-sized by their standards, about 2 kilometers long. It approached Europa 7 slowly, almost casually. Captain Hyun watched from the bridge of New Seoul Station as the alien weapon charged. Energy readings spiked across every sensor. Recording everything, Dr. Mina reported. Power buildup is incredible. Wait, there's a resonance frequency in the weapon charge. A specific harmonic pattern. The weapon fired. Europa 7, a mining station the size of a small city, simply vanished. One moment it was there, the next it was expanding debris and superheated gas. Estimated power output? Admiral Jiwan asked, quietly. Equivalent to 50 fusion bombs detonating simultaneously, Captain Hyun reported. They could destroy any target on Earth with a single shot. But Dr. Mina was studying something else. Admiral, the weapon has a charge time of 47 seconds, and during that charge their defensive shields drop by 30%. Are you certain? The energy readings are clear. They have to divert power from shields to weapons for maximum effect. It's only for 47 seconds, but it's a weakness. On Earth, President Kang called for an emergency session of the United Earth Council. Representatives from every nation gathered virtually, knowing this might be humanity's last free decision. The terms are unacceptable, President Kang stated. We cannot surrender 60% of our resources and 40% of our people, but we also cannot win a conventional war against their fleet. The representative from the Asian Alliance spoke first. Mr. President, perhaps we should consider partial compliance. Negotiate for better terms. They refuse all negotiation, Ambassador, Sola reported. I've tried every diplomatic approach. They view compromise as weakness. The African Union representative stood. Then we fight. My grandfather fought against colonial powers with spears against rifles. Sometimes the fight matters more than the odds. One by one, the other representatives voiced their positions. The vote was close, but the decision was clear. Earth would not surrender. General Day presented the military situation. We have 600 active spacecraft, ranging from fighters to battleships. They have over 300 ships, each individually more powerful than anything we possess. Conventional tactics will fail. Then we use unconventional tactics, Sergeant Wu said from his position at the military briefing table. Hit and run. Guerrilla warfare. Make them pay for every meter of ground. Dr. Junho stood up. We've found a weakness in their weapon systems. It's small, but it exists. If we can coordinate our attacks during their weapon charging cycles, that would require precise timing across multiple ships, Captain Hyun pointed out. One mistake, and we lose everything. We're going to lose everything anyway if we surrender, Admiral Jiwon said firmly. At least this way we lose fighting. The final transmission from Earth came exactly 24 hours after the alien ultimatum. President Kang stood before the cameras, knowing that his next words would determine humanity's future. Commander Thexus, Overlord Vexthar, and the Corvin Empire. This is the official response of the United Earth Government to your demands. He paused, looking directly into the camera. No, the alien response was immediate. You have chosen destruction. Over compliance, orbital bombardment will begin in 1 hour. Any further communication from your species will be ignored. As the transmission ended, President Kang turned to General Day. Give the order. All military units to battle stations, civilian evacuation to emergency shelters, and may whatever. Gods are watching, forgive us for what we're about to unleash. Across Earth, the preparations began. In space, Admiral Jiwon watched the alien fleet begin to move into attack formation. They had 47 minutes to prepare for humanity's first interstellar war, a war that every expert said they could not win. But as Sergeant Wu had told his Marines, experts had been wrong before. Sometimes, the underdog surprised everyone. Sometimes the impossible became inevitable. Sometimes fury was stronger than fear. The first response to Earth's defiance came not from governments or military leaders, but from ordinary people. Factory worker Tai stood before his shift colleagues in the main assembly hall, looking at faces that showed fear, anger, and determination, in equal measure. They want our resources, he said, his voice carrying over the industrial noise. They want our people? They want our children? He gestured to the production line behind him. This line makes civilian electronics. As of today, it makes weapons. Supervisor Hana nodded from her position near the control panel. Management, approve the conversion. We have blueprints for railguns, plasma charges, and portable shield generators. It's not alien technology, but it's better than throwing rocks. Across the factory floor, workers began dismantling the civilian production equipment. These were people who had never seen combat, but they understood that their world was about to change forever. Either they would help fight back, or they would watch their species become slaves. Teacher Yoon was conducting a very different kind of class in her school's basement. Instead of literature and mathematics, she was teaching emergency protocols and basic survival skills. Her students, children, between 12 and 16, listened with the serious attention that only comes from real danger. The evacuation routes lead to the underground shelters, she explained, pointing to the maps on the wall. But the shelters are only temporary. If the aliens land ground forces, some of you may need to survive on your own. A student named Kai raised his hand. Miss Yoon, are we going to die? Yoon looked at the young faces around her. She could lie, tell them everything would be fine. But these children deserved honesty. I don't know, Kai. But I know that humans are stronger than most people think. And I know that as long as one of us is still fighting, we haven't lost. In the rural areas outside the cities, Farmer Bong was implementing a different kind of preparation. His agricultural cooperative had received emergency orders from the government. Convert to underground farming immediately. If the aliens began orbital bombardment, traditional surface agriculture would become impossible. The caves extend for kilometers, he explained to his fellow farmers. We can set up hydroponic systems, grow enough food to feed the resistance, but it means abandoning our homes, our fields, everything we've built above ground. Old farmer, Duck spat into the dirt. Better to grow food in caves than to watch our grandchildren taken as slaves. The land will still be here when this is over. In space, Captain Hyun was preparing for humanity's first active strike against the alien fleet. His ship, the cruiser Soul's Pride, was the most advanced vessel in Earth's navy. Against the Corvan ships, it was hopelessly outmatched, but Admiral Jiwon had given him a mission that didn't require victory, only information. The plan is simple, he explained to his bridge crew. We hit their scouting ship, the one separated from the main fleet. Dr. Mina's analysis shows it has weaker shields than the capital ships. We strike during their weapons charging cycle, gather data on their technology, then retreat. Lieutenant Yoon, his tactical officer, studied the attack plan. Sir, even their scouting ship has more firepower than our entire squadron. Which is why we're not trying to destroy it, Hyun replied. We're trying to hurt it. Make them bleed. A little. Show them that humans don't just surrender without a fight. The scouting ship was conducting energy sweeps of Earth's outer defense satellites when Soul's Pride and 2 escort destroyers approached from the dark side of Mars. The aliens, confident in their superiority, didn't detect the human ships until they were already in weapons range. Captain Hyun waited until his sensors detected the alien weapon charging cycle beginning. 47 seconds. That was their window. All ships concentrated fire on the shield generators, he ordered. Maximum firepower, everything we have. The human ships opened fire simultaneously. Plasma cannons, railguns, and fusion torpedoes struck the Corvan scouting ship in a precisely coordinated barrage. For the first time since arriving at Earth, a Corvan vessel took damage. The alien shields held, but energy fluctuations across their hull showed the impact. More importantly, the ship's automated defense systems activated, revealing technical specifications that Dr. Mina's monitoring equipment recorded in detail. Data collected, reported the science officer. Retreat course plotted. But as the human ships turned to flee, Captain Hyun saw something unexpected on his tactical display. The damaged Corvan ship was signaling for assistance, and its message was panicked, almost desperate. They're scared, Lieutenant Yoon observed with amazement. They actually didn't expect us to fight back. The human ships escaped into the asteroid belt, but the psychological impact of the attack spread quickly through both fleets. On the Corvan command ship, Commander Thexus stood before Overlord Vexthar's communication screen, trying to explain how primitive humans had damaged an Imperial vessel. The attack was coordinated, Thexus reported. They waited for our weapon charging cycle. They knew about our defensive patterns. Overlord Vexthar's image flickered with what might have been anger. Impossible. Primitive species do not possess such tactical knowledge. Nevertheless, they struck at the precise moment of shield vulnerability. Their weapons were weak, but their timing was perfect. On Earth, the news of the successful strike spread like wildfire. People who had been preparing for defeat suddenly began to hope. In military facilities around the world, soldiers who had been expecting to die fighting impossible odds began to believe they might actually hurt their enemies. Sergeant Wu was briefing a joint training session of Marines, Army soldiers, and civilian volunteers when the news arrived. He saw the change in their faces immediately, fear replaced by grim determination. You see, he told the assembled fighters, they can be hurt. They can be surprised. They're not gods. They're just aliens with bigger guns. He gestured to the mixed group of military and civilian personnel. And we're humans, with smaller guns and bigger brains. Dr. Junho was analyzing the data from Captain Hyun's attack when he noticed something crucial. The alien ship's emergency response had revealed the frequency patterns of their internal communication systems. Dr. Mina, he called excitedly, Look at these transmission patterns. When their ship was damaged, their emergency protocols activated on these specific frequencies. Dr. Mina studied the data. If we can replicate those frequencies, we might be able to interfere with their communications. Maybe even access their tactical networks. Exactly. They're so confident in their technology that they never considered someone might learn to use it against them. The breakthrough came at the perfect time. Commander Thexus had just issued new orders to the Corvan fleet, prepare for ground invasion. The orbital bombardment would begin in 12 hours, followed by landing forces to secure the major population centers. Admiral Jiwan received the intelligence report just as the alien ground forces began loading into their transport ships. Hundreds of thousands of Corvan soldiers, equipped with advanced weapons and armor, preparing to occupy Earth. "How long until they're ready to land?" she asked. 18 hours, reported Captain Hyun. "The bombardment starts in 12 hours. Ground forces deploy 6 hours later." Admiral Jiwan looked at the tactical display showing Earth's defenses. Orbital platforms that couldn't stop the alien bombardment. Ships that were outnumbered 10 to 1. Ground forces equipped with weapons. That seemed primitive compared to Corvan technology, but she also saw something the aliens didn't. Underground factories converting to weapons production. Civilian populations preparing to fight rather than surrender. Military units that had analyzed alien weaknesses and were developing new tactics. "Send the order to all units," she commanded. "Operation Defiance begins now. All ships to defensive positions, all ground forces to resistance protocols, all civilian populations to emergency shelters." She paused, thinking of her own children in the shelters below. "And send this message to the Corvan fleet. Earth stands ready. Come and take it." The response from Commander Thexus was immediate and cold. "Orbital bombardment begins in 11 hours and 47 minutes. Prepare for conquest or annihilation." As the countdown began, something unexpected happened across Earth. Instead of panic or despair, a strange calm settled over the human population. People had made their choice. They would fight, and if they died fighting, at least they would. Die free in the factories, workers like Tay completed the first batch of human-made weapons designed specifically to fight aliens. In the schools, teachers like Yoon led children to safety while secretly preparing to become resistance fighters. On the farms, people like Bong finished converting surface agriculture to underground systems that could survive bombardment. And, in space, Admiral Jiwan looked at the approaching alien fleet and smiled grimly. The Corvan Empire had conquered 847 worlds, but they had never conquered a world full of humans who refused to lose. They were about to learn why that made all the difference. The bombardment began at dawn, Earth time. The first target was New York City. From space, the Corvan command ship fired a single energy beam that lasted 3 seconds. When the light faded, Manhattan was gone. 8 million people reduced to superheated plasma and scattered atoms. The aliens had expected terror and immediate surrender. Instead, they got something they had never encountered in 2 centuries of conquest, a species that became more dangerous when attacked. President Kang stood in the deep emergency bunker beneath Washington, watching the orbital feeds as his civilization burned. But instead of despair, he felt cold fury settling in his chest. The aliens had just made their greatest mistake. They had shown humans exactly what surrender meant. "Send the activation code to all resistance cells," he ordered. "Operation Last Stand is now active. All units engage at will." Across Earth, the response was immediate. In the rubble of the attacked cities, emergency teams that should have been evacuating instead began setting up weapon positions. The aliens had destroyed the buildings, but they had not destroyed the humans hiding in the underground tunnels. Teacher Yoon emerged from the school's basement shelter to find her neighborhood transformed into a crater. But she was not alone. Other survivors were climbing out of their hiding places, and many of them were carrying weapons from Ty's factory. "The children?" asked Mrs. Park from the destroyed grocery store. "Safe in the deep shelters," Yoon replied. "Now we make sure they have a world to come back to." Admiral Jiwon watched from New Seoul Station as the second bombardment began. Los Angeles disappeared in another flash of alien fire. But she was not watching the destruction. She was watching the pattern of the alien attacks. "Dr. Mina, are you recording the weapon signatures?" "Every detail," Mina replied. "Each bombardment gives us more data on their targeting systems, their energy patterns, their firing sequences. Good, because we're going to use that data to hurt them. Captain Hyun was leading the first coordinated counterattack when the third city died. São Paulo vanished in alien fire, but Hyun's squadron was already moving. The aliens had developed a pattern: bombard a city, then move to the next target. During the repositioning, their formation spread out. All ships, attack formation 7. Hyun commanded. Target the command cruiser's escort vessels. Hit them during the weapon charging cycle. The human fleet was outnumbered 5-1, but they had advantages the aliens didn't expect. They knew exactly when the Corvin shields would be weakest. They knew the precise timing of the weapon cycles, and they were fighting for their home. Seoul's Pride led 12 other ships in a coordinated strike against the alien formation. The Corvin ships, confident in their superiority, didn't even adjust their defensive positions until the human weapons were already hitting their targets. 2 alien escort ships took serious damage. One of them actually exploded, its crew caught, completely off guard by weapons that shouldn't have been able to penetrate their defenses. Commander Thexus stared at his tactical display in disbelief. How are they doing this? Their weapons are primitive, their ships are obsolete. His tactical officer, a veteran of dozens of conquests, looked equally confused. Sir, they're coordinating their attacks with impossible precision. They seem to know exactly when our defenses are weakest. What the aliens didn't understand was that humans had been fighting each other for thousands of years. They had learned to study their enemies, to find weaknesses, to adapt their tactics. And now they were applying those skills to an enemy from space. On the ground, the real surprise was just beginning. The Corvin landing ships descended on what they expected to be a broken, demoralized population. Instead, they found civilians who had spent weeks preparing to become soldiers. Sergeant Wu was waiting in the ruins of Denver when the first alien transports landed. His mixed unit of Marines and civilian volunteers had prepared the battlefield carefully. Every building was booby-trapped. Every street had hidden weapon positions. Every route the aliens might take was covered by crossfire. Remember, he told his fighters, they're expecting easy targets. Give them a war instead. The first Corvin ground forces to leave their transports walked into a carefully planned ambush. Human weapons, designed specifically to exploit the weaknesses Dr. Junho had discovered, struck with devastating effect. The aliens had energy shields that stopped most projectiles, but the humans had learned to use concentrated electromagnetic pulses that disrupted the shield generators. What followed was urban warfare unlike anything in the Corvin Empire's military history. The aliens had superior technology and training, but the humans had something else. They were fighting for their children, their homes, their very existence as a free species. Shopkeeper Hana had never fired a weapon in her life before. The invasion. But when Corvin soldiers broke into her neighborhood, she was ready with an improvised explosive device made from civilian electronics and alien technology stolen from their damaged ships. The explosion took out an entire alien squad. More importantly, it showed other civilians that the invaders could be hurt, could be killed, could be beaten. Student Kai was supposed to be in the deep shelters with the other children. Instead, he was leading a group of teenagers through the city's storm drain system, using their knowledge of local terrain to guide human fighters to alien positions. 3 squads of aliens in the shopping district, he reported over his stolen radio. They're setting up a command post in the old electronics store. 20 minutes later, that command post was destroyed by human fighters who knew every back alley, every rooftop, every hidden entrance in their own city. The aliens found themselves fighting an enemy that seemed to be everywhere and nowhere at once. Every building could hide fighters. Every civilian could be carrying explosives. Every child could be guiding attack teams to alien positions. General Craxon, commanding the Corvin ground forces, sent increasingly desperate reports to the fleet. The humans are not behaving like a conquered species. They fight like they believe they can win. Impossible, Commander Thexus replied. Continue the pacification. Use whatever force is necessary. But force was not the problem. The Corvin ground troops had overwhelming firepower. The problem was that their enemy didn't fight like any species they had conquered before. Engineer Sol was supposed to be dead. Her apartment building had been vaporized in the first bombardment, but she had been in the basement workshop when the attack came, working on a project that would change the war. Using components salvaged from the damaged alien scouting ship and parts from human technology, She had built something new, a device that could hack into Corvan communication systems. "Dr. Junho," she called over the emergency network, "I have access to their tactical frequencies. I can hear their field commands." The intelligence was invaluable. Human fighters began anticipating alien movements, setting traps, striking at exactly the right moments. What should have been a simple occupation became a nightmare of guerrilla warfare. Dr. Mina made the next breakthrough while analyzing the wreckage of destroyed alien ships. The Corvan technology was advanced, but it was also standardized. Every ship used the same systems, the same protocols, the same weaknesses. "Admiral," she reported excitedly, "their entire fleet uses linked navigation systems. If we can hack into one ship's computer, we can access the network for the entire fleet." Admiral Jiwan understood immediately. "Can we do it?" Engineer Saul has already demonstrated communication hacking, with the right modifications to her work. Do it. And Dr. Mina, make it hurt. As the battle for Earth entered its third day, something unprecedented happened in the Corvan Empire's military history. For the first time in 2 centuries, an invasion was not proceeding according to plan. The humans should have surrendered after the bombardment. Instead, they fought harder. They should have been demoralized by their losses. Instead, they used each defeat to learn how to fight better. Commander Thexus found himself reporting to Overlord Vexthar that the conquest of Earth would take longer than expected. "How much longer?" the Overlord demanded. Thexus looked at the tactical reports. Human resistance was growing stronger, not weaker. Their weapons were becoming more effective. Their tactics were evolving faster than Corvan forces could adapt. "Unknown, my lord. The humans are unpredictable." What Commander Thexus didn't say, because he barely understood it himself, was that humanity was learning. Every attack taught them something new about alien technology. Every defeat showed them how to fight better next time. Every fallen human was replaced by 2 more who were angrier and smarter than before. The Corvan Empire had expected to harvest Earth's resources and enslave its population. Instead, they had awakened something they had never encountered before, a species that treated impossible odds as a challenge rather than a death sentence. The storm was breaking, and it was breaking in humanity's favor. 3 months after the invasion began, the Corvan Empire faced something unprecedented in their military history, a resistance that grew stronger with each defeat. What should have been a simple conquest had become their first military disaster. Captain Hyun stood on the bridge of his new flagship, the hybrid cruiser Earth's Fury. The ship was a patchwork of human engineering and salvaged alien technology, built in the underground factories that the Corvans had failed to find and destroy. It looked crude compared to pure alien vessels, but it was faster and more maneuverable than anything the Empire had faced before. "Target acquired," reported Lieutenant Yoon from the tactical station. "Corvan supply convoy, 3 cargo ships with 2 escort cruisers. Range to target 40,000 kilometers in closing. Their sensors show no sign of detecting us." Hyun smiled grimly. The stealth technology was another human innovation, developed by Dr. Junho's team using principles learned from captured alien equipment. The Corvans had superior technology, but humans had superior adaptability. All weapons ready. Remember the new protocol. Hit the escorts first. Disable the cargo ships. Then capture what we can before their reinforcements arrive. The attack was perfect. Human fighters, now equipped with hybrid weapons that used alien power sources and human targeting systems, struck the convoy with devastating precision. The escort ships, caught completely off guard, were destroyed within minutes. The cargo ships, unable to defend themselves, surrendered rather than face annihilation. For the first time since the invasion began, humans had captured intact alien vessels with their full cargo loads. "What did we get?" Admiral Jiwan asked when the convoy was secured. Engineer Sol led the inspection team through the captured cargo holds. What they found changed everything. Weapons, shield generators, computer cores, and most importantly, star charts showing the locations of 17 Corvan supply bases. Dr. Mina was already analyzing the computer cores. "Admiral, this is incredible. We have access to their entire logistics network, shipping schedules, supply routes, defensive positions for half their local fleet." The intelligence revolution that followed was swift and decisive. Within weeks, human strike teams were hitting Corvan supply lines across 3 star systems. Ships that should have been delivering resources to the invasion fleet instead found themselves under attack by forces that seemed to know their exact schedules and routes. Overlord Vexthar received Commander Thexus's latest report with growing fury. Explain to me how primitive humans are disrupting supply lines across 17 sectors. My lord, they have somehow gained access to our logistics network. Their attacks are precisely coordinated. They know when and where our convoys will be vulnerable. Impossible. Our encryption systems are beyond their comprehension. But Commander Thexus had seen the evidence himself. Human fighters appearing at exactly the right time and place to intercept supply ships. Human weapons that exploited specific weaknesses in Corvan defenses. Human tactics that seemed designed by someone who understood Imperial military doctrine better than some of his own officers. On Earth, the ground war had evolved into something the Corvan military had never encountered. Sergeant Wu's Marine units now operated with equipment that was half human, half alien. Their weapons could penetrate Corvan armor. Their communication systems could intercept alien orders. Their tactics had adapted to exploit every weakness. In Imperial ground forces, the aliens are pulling back from the outer cities, reported Private Bach during the morning briefing. They're consolidating around their landing zones. Wu studied the tactical map. The Corvan ground forces, once confident invaders, were now fighting a defensive war. They held the major landing sites, but everything beyond those fortified zones belonged to the human resistance. They're scared, he told his squad. For the first time since they arrived, they're fighting an enemy they can't predict and can't defeat. We've got them on the defensive. Teacher Yoon had become something she never expected, a resistance leader. Her knowledge of the city's layout and her talent for organization had made her invaluable to the underground movement. She now coordinated supply networks that kept weapons and food flowing to fighter teams across the region. The children asked, "About you," she told Farmer Bong during one of their secret meetings. His underground agricultural systems now fed thousands of resistance fighters. "Tell them I'm growing food so they'll have something to eat when this is over," Bong replied. "And tell them that when it is over, we'll be free." The real breakthrough came when Dr. Junho and Engineer Saul completed their most ambitious project yet. Using components from dozens of captured alien ships, they had built something unprecedented. A human-designed, faster-than-light communication system. "Admiral," Dr. Junho reported excitedly, "we can now communicate instantly with our strike teams anywhere in the local star systems. The Corvans have been relying on courier ships for long-range communication. We now have a significant advantage in coordinating attacks." Admiral Jiwan understood the implications immediately. "We can coordinate simultaneous strikes across multiple systems, hit them everywhere at once, faster than they can respond." The first coordinated interstellar strike was devastating. Human forces, now operating from captured Corvan bases, hit 17 supply depots simultaneously. The attacks were perfectly timed, with reinforcement fleets arriving to find their supply bases already destroyed and their logistics networks in chaos. Commander Thexus found himself reporting failures that he couldn't explain to superiors who couldn't believe them. The humans have achieved faster-than-light coordination somehow. Their attacks are synchronized across distances that should require days of communication delay. You are telling me that a primitive species has developed technology superior to our own? I am telling you that we underestimated them, my lord, severely. The psychological impact of the human successes spread through the Corvan fleet like a virus. For 2 centuries, they had conquered world after world with minimal resistance. Now they faced an enemy that not only fought back but was actually winning. Morale among the Imperial forces began to collapse. Soldiers who had signed up to participate in easy conquests found themselves in a grinding war against an enemy that seemed to learn and adapt faster than they could respond. On Earth, the resistance had grown from desperate survivors hiding in ruins to an organized military force capable of offensive operations. Factories that had been converted to weapons production were now producing equipment that was superior to standard Corvan gear. Shopkeeper Hana, now a squad leader in the urban resistance, carried weapons that could punch through alien armor like paper. Student Kai, who had become an expert in alien technology despite being only 16, led teams that could hack Corvin systems faster than their own technicians. The tide had turned, but the most shocking development was yet to come. Engineer Sol was working on modifications to a captured Corvin flagship when she made a discovery that changed everything. Deep in the ship's computer core, she found something unexpected. Star charts showing the locations of over 200 Corvin colonies and military bases. "Dr. Mina," she called over the communication system, "you need to see this. It's not just supply lines, it's their entire empire. Every colony, every base, every military installation." When the implications became clear, Admiral Jiwan called an emergency conference with President Kang and the military leadership. "The question," she said, looking at the holographic display showing Corvin territory, "is no longer whether we can defend Earth. The question is whether we're going to take this war to them." President Kang studied the star charts. Hundreds of worlds that had submitted to Corvan rule. Billions of beings living under imperial domination, and now humanity had the technology and knowledge to reach them. "How many ships can we deploy for offensive operations?" Captain Hyun consulted his reports. 47 hybrid vessels, each with capabilities equivalent to Corvin cruisers, plus captured alien ships that we've learned to operate. We could field a fleet of over 100 ships. Against how many Corvin forces? In the local sectors? Unknown. But Admiral, their forces are scattered across hundreds of systems. If we strike fast and hard. The decision that followed would echo across the galaxy. Earth had been attacked because the Corvin Empire wanted its resources. But what followed was not the conquest of humanity. It was humanity's introduction to interstellar warfare, and their first lesson in why some species should never be provoked. The hunters had become the hunted, and the galaxy was about to learn what humans were truly capable of when they stopped fighting for survival and started fighting for justice. The Corvin retreat began 6 months after their invasion started, but Admiral Jiwan and President Kang had already made a decision that would reshape the galaxy. Humanity would not simply defend Earth anymore. They would carry the war to the enemy's home. "The first target is the Corvin supply base at Kepler 442, Admiral Jiwan announced to the assembled fleet commanders. "Intelligence indicates it's lightly defended but critical to their logistics network. We hit it hard, fast, and we make sure the galaxy knows that Earth fights back." Captain Hyun stood on the bridge of Earth's Fury, now flagship of humanity's first interstellar strike force. Around him, 47 ships prepared for humanity's first offensive action beyond their solar system. The fleet was a mix of captured alien vessels and hybrid ships built from human ingenuity and salvage technology. "All ships report ready for jump," Lieutenant Yoon announced. "Dr. Junho, are the navigation systems online?" "Affirmative, Admiral. The captured star charts are integrated with our hybrid computers. We'll arrive within 1,000 kilometers of the target." The jump to faster-than-light travel felt different when humans were the ones attacking. For the first time since the invasion began, they were not responding to alien aggression. They were taking the initiative. The Corvin supply base at Kepler 442 was a massive orbital facility designed to service the Imperial fleet operating in 17 star systems. It had never been attacked, never been threatened, never faced any resistance stronger than the occasional pirate raid. When the human fleet emerged from FTL, the base's defenders barely had time to activate their shields before the attack began. "All ships, execute attack pattern Delta," Captain Hyun ordered. "Target the shield generators first, then the docking bays." The human weapons, now fully adapted to exploit Corvin weaknesses, tore through the base's defenses like paper. What should have been an impregnable fortress was reduced to debris and escaping life pods within 30 minutes. But the real message was not the destruction of the base. It was the transmission that followed. "Corvin Empire," Admiral Jiwan announced on all frequencies. "This is Admiral Jiwan of the United Earth Defense Force. You came to our world seeking conquest. You found war. You demanded submission. We offer defiance. Any Corvin force that threatens human civilians will face retaliation. Any Corvin base that supports attacks on Earth will be destroyed. You wanted our resources. Instead, you have earned our fury." The transmission was received across dozens of star systems, carried by the automatic communication relays in the destroyed base. For the first time in the Empire's history, the conquered had become the conquerors. Commander Thexus received the news while still struggling to maintain his failing invasion of Earth. Human forces had pushed his ground troops back to 3 isolated beachheads. His fleet was running low on supplies, and now he learned that humans were attacking Imperial territory. "My lord," he reported to Overlord Vexthar, "the humans have destroyed the Kepler supply base. They used captured vessels and hybrid technology. Their weapons are now equivalent to our own." The silence from the Overlord lasted several minutes. When he finally spoke, his voice carried a tone that Thexus had never heard before. Uncertainty. How is this possible? 6 months ago, they were a primitive species with no interstellar capability. They learn, my lord, faster than any species we have encountered. Every defeat teaches them. Every captured ship adds to their fleet. Every analyzed weapon improves their technology. On Earth, the success of the first interstellar strike had energized the resistance beyond all expectations. Factories that had been producing weapons for defense now retooled for offense. Engineer Saul led teams that were reverse engineering, captured Corvan technology and improving it with human innovations. "The next wave of ships will be faster, better armed, and completely human designed," she reported to the military leadership. "We're not just copying their technology anymore. We're surpassing it." Dr. Mina had been analyzing the intelligence gathered from the destroyed supply base. What she found was disturbing, but also revealing. The Corvan Empire controls over 200 star systems, but they're spread thin. Most colonies have minimal defenses because they've never faced rebellion. President Kang studied the tactical projections. What you're suggesting is not just retaliation. It's liberation. Sir, there are billions of beings living under Corvan rule. Species that were conquered just like they tried to conquer us. If we can reach them, coordinate with them. The second phase of humanity's interstellar campaign began 3 weeks later. Captain Yoon led a strike force to the industrial world of Ross 128, where the Corvans had enslaved a species called the Villani to mine rare metals. The attack plan was surgical. Destroy the Corvan garrison, free the Villani workers, and arm them with captured weapons. What humanity discovered was that they were not the only species that hated their imperial overlords. "Admiral," Captain Yoon reported from the liberated world, "the Villani want to join our fight. They have ships, they know Corvan weaknesses, and they have information about other enslaved species." The revolution that followed was swift and devastating. World after world rose up against Corvan rule, aided by human weapons, human tactics, and human determination. Species that had been enslaved for generations suddenly found themselves with the tools and knowledge to fight back. Sergeant Wu, now, commanding a mixed unit of humans and freed aliens, led the assault on the prison world of Wolf 359. The Corvan guards, facing a coordinated attack by beings they had considered broken slaves, surrendered within hours. "The difference," he told his diverse squad after the battle, "is that we taught them something the Corvans never understood. Sometimes the prisoner has the key to his own cell. He just needs someone to show him where it is." The psychological impact on the Corvan Empire was catastrophic. For 2 centuries, they had built their power on the assumption that conquered species would remain conquered. Now they faced rebellions across dozens of systems, coordinated by a species that had turned defeat into victory. Overlord Vexthar called an emergency session of the Imperial High Command. The reports from across the Empire painted a picture of unprecedented disaster. "The humans have formed an alliance with 17 liberated species," reported Intelligence Commander Krex. "Their combined fleet now numbers over 300 ships. More importantly, they possess complete intelligence on our defensive positions, supply routes, and strategic weaknesses." "What are our options?" Vexthar demanded. The silence in the command chamber spoke volumes. The empire that had conquered almost 1,000 worlds was facing something they had never prepared for, an enemy that fought not just for survival, but for the liberation of others. General Craxon, who had led the failed ground invasion of Earth, finally spoke. "My lord, we must consider peace negotiations. The humans have demonstrated capabilities we did not anticipate. Continuing this war risks the destruction of the Empire itself." The transmission from Earth arrived 12 hours later. President Kang's image appeared on screens across the Corvan capital world, his words carrying the weight of a species that had transformed from victims to victors. Overlord Vexthar, this is President Kang of the United Earth Government. You came to our world with demands. Now we come to you with terms. The immediate withdrawal of all Corvan forces from Earth. The liberation of all enslaved species under Imperial rule. Reparations for the damage done to our world and our people. And most importantly, a guarantee that no species will ever again face the choice between slavery and annihilation. The terms were not a negotiation. They were a statement of new reality. The galaxy had changed, and the change was irreversible. Commander Thexus, still orbiting Earth with the remnants of his invasion fleet, sent his final report to the Imperial Command. The humans have achieved something we believed impossible. They have turned their own conquest into the liberation of others. They fight not just for themselves, but for every species that has ever faced what they faced. The Corvan Empire, for the first time in its history, sent peace envoys to negotiate with a species they had tried to enslave. But what they discovered in those negotiations was that some lines, once crossed, could never be uncrossed. Humanity had learned what they were capable of when driven to desperation. Now they were discovering what they could accomplish when driven by purpose. The Empire had wanted Earth's resources. Instead, they had unleashed something far more dangerous. The fury of a species that would never again allow themselves to be prey and would never allow others to suffer what they had suffered. The galaxy would never be the same, and somewhere among the stars, other empires watched the rise of humanity and quietly began reconsidering their own policies toward primitive species. The age of easy conquest was over. The age of human fury had begun. Engineer Sol, now designing ships that surpassed anything the Corvans had ever built, completed work on humanity's first pure starship design. As the vessel prepared for its maiden voyage, she inscribed a simple message on its hull. They wanted our resources. We gave them a demonstration of our greatest resource, the refusal to yield. The ship's name was Never Again. Its mission was to ensure that name became more than just a promise. It became the foundation of a new galactic order.